high school girls' bathroom deep inside Washington State.
Oh my god, didn't know I could get pregnant if you pulled out. What am I gonna do?
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Teenage pregnancy is one of the United States' growing epidemics because teenagers are not receiving the sexual education they need so that they know the important information about their bodies and how to use contraceptives in the right way. We as a nation need to get more comfortable about talking about sex and the implications of it if we want teen and unwanted pregnancy to go down. We can start doing this by getting more comfortable talking about it in schools, in classrooms, and in our houses.
Not very comfortable. We didn't really talk about it at all. Kind of, yes. I mean, I guess I didn't really know much other than like what I knew from school and friends. We didn't really talk about it at all, I guess.
Okay.
I think that they should obviously not teach abstinence only because everyone's going to do it, and I think they should teach kids how to be safe. And it'd be a tough conversation, but I could do it.
Society today views sex as something that should not be spoken about in public. Most people, including the students we interviewed, felt very uncomfortable talking to anyone but close friends about sex. Why is it that we can easily joke about sexual topics but feel uncomfortable being able to discuss them and learn about them by talking about them in schools or to our parents? Maybe our next interviewee can shed some light on the subject.
I think part of it has to do of societally, it's always kind of been frowned upon or taboo. I think the big thing has always been, not always, but for a long time it's been like, no sex until marriage, but then I think people have been shamed so much and it's been so kind of restricted that even when people do get married, they're still very uncomfortable even talking about it with their own spouse or even with their kids. And when I think it's very much a common thing that people can be educated on and be very open about, and I think it's not like that. In elementary school, even before I took formal sex education in I think it was 6th grade, I believe. My mom, she herself wasn't super comfortable talking about it, but she got this video that was intended to kind of give some basics to kids that are younger that have questions. So she showed me this video, and at first I was, kind of, I guess, blown away by it a little bit, but I was still young and naive enough that it was just very much, there was no shaming behind it. There wasn't like this negative feelings behind it. It was very much like scientific. It was like, hey, here's a boy, here's a girl, here's how things work. And it was very basic and almost very like how you would explain it to a child, without any sort of negative connotations or negative views on it. It was just very matter of fact. So I think that was, I think for my mom was very uncomfortable for her to do, but she knew that she thought it was important, and so that's the way she approached it. I have no idea. I would assume probably somewhere around the time of puberty, so early teenage years. Obviously for girls sooner than for boys. I think part of it is what people maybe see in pop culture is things being a lot of things are sexualized, so they might ask questions sooner, not really knowing what sex is or not having been driven biologically by it. They might not have a sex drive, but they know that it exists, and so they might ask questions about it or hear things about it, or if they see other people talking about it, those questions will be perked up. But I think even as a general, just the way that we view the human body is kind of stifled quite a bit. So, like my kids, they know that I have 2 daughters, and they know girls have girl parts and boys have boy parts. They've seen boys before. You know, it's not a huge thing, but the idea of sex or sexual reproduction isn't anywhere on their radar yet. And again, that wouldn't come until later on, probably late elementary, middle school time. I mean, I think ultimately it does come down to the parents and how they view it, but it all depends on what you want for your kids. Do you want your kids to be educated about that stuff? And I think a lot of people kind of entangle, you know, being knowledgeable and educated about it as condoning or encouraging certain types of behaviors or decisions. I think just because you are educated and knowledgeable how sex works or all the things that are surrounding it doesn't mean that you're encouraged to go out and do it. It's just realize that that is a component of life and that can happen and it does happen, and you know, be educated, be prepared, because I mean there are a lot of kids that in high school that have asked me really, to me, are kind of very childlike questions. You know, they're just not very knowledgeable about it because they've never they've either been sheltered from it or they've been given misinformation on it, and which is really unfortunate because I mean we're in an education setting, and what do we want for students? We want them to be the most educated they can to make the best decisions they can. You know, we're not condoning or encouraging anything in particular, but you know, you want them to be knowledgeable about you know, themselves and the world around them. I think the education and the knowledge part of it is, I think, very much essential to where we are. I mean, I guess the idea that, like I said, we don't necessarily condone it, we're not giving people birth control. You know, that again comes from the outside. You know, whether family wants to do it or you know, there are services outside of school that will provide birth control for people that do need it because they, you know, are sexually active. But I think for us as a educational institution, I think it's the right thing to do is that we should educate people on what this is, because just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And again, if we approach it from a very scientific and educational side of it, then I think it's completely appropriate in the classroom.
Meanwhile, in a quiet household that same day, another family was busy making dinner.
Hey Mom, I have some questions about
Darling.
sex that I hope you'd be able to clear up that has to do with contraceptives and stuff.
Darling, don't speak that loud. I don't want your sister to hear about it. We don't talk that here. Okay? I just want to make it clear to you. You have school for that. We don't talk about it in the house.
But Mom, how am I supposed to keep myself safe?
The only way to keep yourself safe is to get married, and then you will be safe. There is no other way. And we're not going to talk about it here because your sister is too small yet.
Okay.
Many kids and teenagers around the world grow up in a family that is not comfortable at all talking about sex and sexual topics, and doesn't really want to have anything to do with the subject. They expect kids to kind of just know about it or learn the information on their own. Or some families believe that teaching kids about sex will lead them to be more promiscuous. This is actually an untrue popular belief. There is extensive research, scientific research, that proves talking about and learning about sex does not promote promiscuity in teens. It actually protects them. What it does teach them is to be safe and value their bodies and their own choices. Meanwhile, that same day, another teen in another household had some very important questions she wanted answered about sex.
Hey Mom, I have some questions
Hey,
about
Panis.
sex. I wanted to know about contraceptives.
Okay, let's see.
What's the best kind to use?
Well, the best kind is always to protect yourself and to know that you are responsible for your own health. So, let's see. The condom is a must. And it's not only for the boys, even though they wear it, but you are the one who insists on it and who is bringing it over.
If more teenagers had the ability to grow up in an environment more open to talking about sex at home, not just implicating the abstinence to marriage rule, we would have a generation full of informed, healthy young adults that are capable of making fully informed decisions on all aspects of human sexuality.
Definitely. I'm very comfortable. Ask me, ask me. Very bad. A lot of mistakes, a lot of danger for kids, because kids who don't know how to protect themselves will get damaged by it. No, I think I was good. I did my best. I think they are good as of educating about sex. I don't think they have to get that specific about childbirth, not to scare the potential mothers in the future. I don't know, it probably comes from your childhood. If your parents never talk to you about it, then you will be shy and uncomfortable, and probably it's kind of tricky topic to talk about if you don't have a very strong connection and open mind. Sex and birth controls? Well, I was, before the first grade, I knew everything. I come from a doctor's family. There is a lot of books I was reading. But contraception, probably around 16, yeah, around 16 years old, again from books. My parents were not talking too much, but thank God we had books.
Unforgettable. I wanna do it again. You're crazy like an animal, and I don't want it to end. Tell me all your dreams and darkest fantasies. Ooh. Let's talk about